Okay, you may be familiar with one of these, the water cooler, or also the office gossip area. But the water cooler, this also has a refrigeration system in it. So we're going to turn this around so we can take a better look at it. And it's kind of hard to see everything because the condensing coil here is kind of blocking it. So what we're going to do is take the screws out and we're going to move this out of the way. Now, we've got to be very careful not to damage the piping. Now we can take a better look at this system. So we have our compressor. That's where I like to start my refrigeration cycle. You can start anywhere, it's a cycle, but a compressor is also called a vapor pump. Sucks in low pressure vapor on this side, pumps out high pressure vapor on this side, moves the refrigerant. This is going to be our discharge line. It's going to be our hot gas line. High temperature, high pressure, superheated vapor. This line then runs into our condensing coil, back and forth, back and forth. The first little section we de-superheat, then we change it from a vapor back to a liquid. This is saturation, this is latent heat. It's going to be about the same temperature all the way through here because it is latent heat, and it's going to be rejecting tons of heat. And then we have at the very bottom, we're going to be subcooling below saturation. Now this doesn't have a fan on it, so it's using natural convection to allow the heat to draft up and away. But we still leave the condensing coil as our subcooled liquid line. We'll go into our liquid line filter dryer, and then we have a metering device, but it is also a capillary tube. This single capillary tube, the size and the length of that tube determines how much refrigerant is flowing through it. From there, this capillary tube line runs in insulation, but it's running up towards the evaporator coil. And inside of here, we're going to have our evaporator. So inside of here is going to be our evaporator coil. Our refrigerant is going to be boiling. It's about approximately 75% liquid, 25% vapor. Boiling, changing state from liquid to vapor, absorbing a massive amount of heat, and then we'll superheat at the very end. Now this is covered, the evaporator coil is covered with this insulation. I'm not going to take this insulation off because it may not go back together very well. So in the other side of this, on the outside we see the insulation. Behind the insulation we have the evaporator coil, which is a coil of tubing. And on the other side of that is we actually have a container that the water's in. So it's absorbing heat away from the water. In other words, we're cooling the water off. The heat leaves the warmer water. It goes to the cooler refrigerant. That heat leaving the water makes the refrigerant boil. We boil the refrigerant from a liquid to a vapor. Then we superheat the vapor. And coming back out of our suction line is our superheated vapor. Low temperature, low pressure, superheated vapor. Suction line, gas line comes back to the compressor, and it makes the complete cycle again. It's a very simple concept, but it's still our entire refrigeration cycle. Looks a little bit different, still the same cycle. So if you know where the cycle, if you know the refrigeration cycle and you can find the compressor, you can find the entire system. Now separately, this tank or this canister here is just for the heater. These are heating elements in here because it also has the option to heat the water. But that's separate from a refrigeration cycle. It's a complete separate system.